What's going on, Clay?
Hey, Greer, how you doing?
Good. How are you, man?
I'm all right. I'm all right.
Awesome. Give me 2 seconds. I'll cut my camera on.
You're good.
Hey,
Ah,
hey.
yo. How you been, man?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Good to see you.
Good seeing you too. Good seeing you too. Is it hot in that? Is it humid in Atlanta right now?
It is. It is hot and humid. It is living into its name, Hot Atlanta.
Yeah, it's really just got humid this week. It's been a little cool on and off lately, the past couple weeks, so it's actually nice to get real summer weather for once.
I know. I agree. I just am not ready for the continuous heat that
Yeah,
is
oh yeah.
definitely coming.
Yo, we're not going back down until September, so
Oh, I know. I know. I
maybe
guess I'll
October.
just buckle down and get used to it.
Yeah, I was actually still getting away with wearing some light sweaters here or there until now. So
Right.
not anymore.
Right. Yeah, it rained here in Atlanta pretty badly yesterday. I don't know if y'all had it up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, it's been raining like almost every night, I feel like here.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
We gonna
Well,
get
should we
right.
dive in? Yeah, let's
Yeah,
do it.
let's just dive in, man. The audience knows who we are. They already know who we are. So we just gonna jump right into it, y'all. This your recap. So if you could just talk about your if I'm mispronouncing it wrong, just forgive me. Your summer internship experience or your associate job, or however it's pronounced, yeah, just correct me if needed.
Yeah, no, you're right on. So it's a summer associate position down here at a law firm in Atlanta called Parks, Chesney and Walbert. They do general civil rights and also employment litigation, primarily for plaintiffs. So that means people who have been fired from their jobs and they think that they were fired wrongfully or discriminately. We represent those people. So it's been a great summer so far.
That's good.
Thank you for asking, Clay. We just wrapped up, or I just wrapped up my first week at the firm. So I'm headed into week two tomorrow, and got my own little office space, and I've been able to meet everyone at the firm by now, so it's been great.
That's good, man. That's good, man. I see you in those supos. You get some good use out of your suits. I hardly ever wear pants.
Yes, I keep my clothes in rotation. It's always something to dress up for. But this firm is actually pretty casual,
Oh,
and
yeah.
so I don't have to wear a suit every day. But of course, I dressed up that first day
That's
for a variety of reasons. But yeah, it was a good week. How was your week overall?
Yeah, it's good. I've been covering Tribeca Film Festival over here in New York. So I've been doing interviews basically with a series of filmmakers, international filmmakers and all. My mother and I have been doing that, so I'm gonna be continuing that until next week, and I'll be in New York next week, and I'm also am going to be doing some interviews with American Black Film Festival as well. That's going to be in Miami next Wednesday all the way through Juneteenth. So that's in Miami Beach. So yeah, got my hands
Nice.
here. I literally did like three interviews yesterday, and I did one this morning. Actually, a couple this morning, as a matter of fact. So I actually been nonstop. So it's been good,
Wow.
man. It's been fun. But yeah, just go overall. We're just gonna go. We're gonna weave all this and everything. From a legal perspective and everything, we didn't really touch on it too much last time. But what are your thoughts, either just personally, socially, or even legally, on the Diddy trial?
Um, man, it's tough. It's a crazy trial, as many people have seen or heard or read by now. I'm interested to see how it unfolds this week. But so far, I think that personally, he's going to get convicted of something. That's my belief. I think they're going to have a tough time prosecuting him on the RICO charge and really tying it together. But the prosecution has even started to lay the groundwork for some of this coercion and Diddy making people do things they didn't want to do. And so I think just because the evidence is so overwhelming as to he was doing crazy, nasty things, I think the jury is going to want to convict him on something. Now, is he going to be convicted on everything? Is he going to spend the rest of his life in prison? I'm not sure. But I do think that the jury is probably not viewing all of this evidence that's come out and this testimony. I'm sure they're not viewing that in a positive light. I do think it's going to be tough though, because this is at the federal level. And so there is a RICO aspect, there is a coercion aspect. So just the fact that he was doing sexual things or engaging in acts that people don't like, that doesn't mean he's necessarily guilty of this specific crime. I think there's a trafficking aspect as well. And so they're going to have to prove all of that to convict him on all of that. So we'll see. But my personal opinion is he's going to be convicted of something, but I don't think it'll be everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to go with you there. This is a very all the evidence is murky. I mean, he has a high profile. I'm not gonna use the word great 'cause I don't want it to sound like I'm supporting him, but he does have a high profile defense team and such. So I would expect them to have some weight in this into how this is going to go down, even though this is a federal case and the conviction rate for federal cases usually 97 to 98%. Um, my only thoughts are I wish this was televised. I really wish this was. I mean, the courtroom sketches aren't really doing any of them any justice. I wish we could
No.
see his face live, real time in cover, or at least an actual photograph, because it looks like he has gray hair and everything. And I mean, even with these AI image generators, like, come on now, y'all. Like, why are we using sketches? At least do an AI image of it or something. Get him.
That is very valid.
I,
Very.
I know, but yeah, I wish this was televised. I think I wish all court cases would be televised. That's just me personally. I understand there's laws, but I think those should be lifted or should be amended because I think, especially if the United States is the public or is the defendant, not defendant, is the victim here. I think we should have a right to access it, just like I think we should be able to access Supreme Court hearings. I don't think everything should be closed doors these days. And I think it will actually do the public more to know what's going on instead of getting it through a transcription or from a detailed account. Um,
Right.
do I think he's going to be convicted on something? Absolutely. At the end of the day, you have to put common sense forth. I do think that we kind of talked about this in a not in a jokingly way, but kind of in a well, I wouldn't be surprised way about the possible or any possibility of a Trump pardon. We spoke on that. I think it was either offline once or even on a previous episode here, but I wasn't really giving it that no serious weight. That was just more like offline banter, whatnot. I wasn't even trying to go into conspiracy theory mode, but it's actually had picked up some traction, an actual serious weight where he being Trump was asked about that in the Oval office, and in short, he said he's considering it. So wow, I mean, like I try not to ever go into third party spamish type of conspiracy theory talk on social media, but that actually kind of looked like there might be some credibility to what I was saying to you that one time.
Yeah, I mean, we were kind of joking about it, but we've seen even with these Chris Lee pardons that Trump has given out, and reality TV stars, and the fact that Trump did say we'll see, and he's not totally counting it out. I mean, it's possible if Diddy is convicted on something that he just comes right back out into the public via Trump. So that those are kind of my thoughts on that. I guess continuing down the Trump line, do you want to talk about the Trump and Elon
Yeah,
feud?
let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay, I'll let you talk about it first. I know you
Yeah,
used to call him Vice President
sure.
Musk or whatever you used to say, but now that seems like they're fighting. They've been saying on social media the girls are fighting. But
Yeah.
what do you think about this whole beef between Trump and the richest man on earth?
Well, we've been saying this since day one of the show, or even in general. Like, it's only a matter of time. Did I think it was going to happen this quickly? Probably not. But I mean, you got these two egomaniacs just running a Musk, no pun intended, or muck. I mean, this was bound to happen. I mean, look, they went past 90 days, so like any job. So I mean, they were they going to 120 days or so. Yeah, so I mean, look, the probationary period, they got as far as most employment probationary periods go in this country. So hey, I'm not surprised. I'm just surprised it didn't happen a little later. I thought maybe by the end of this year we would see that, but not like 120 days in or so. But it's pretty. I don't want to use the word entertaining because I try not to these days make politics entertainment because there's just too much on the line. But I did get a kick out of it,
Well,
especially.
yeah,
Yeah, I'll let you go ahead now.
No, I was just gonna say it is a little funny, and I was two quick thoughts. First of all, I am surprised that it happened at this time. I either thought it was gonna happen sooner, like after Elon started attending the cabinet meetings, and folks were like, "Wait, what is he doing here?" Or I thought it's gonna be later, like you said, like toward the end of this year. At least help Trump get through the summer and see if they could get together on some legislation. And it seems like this big, beautiful bill, as the Republicans are calling it, is kind of up in the air now, especially because Elon is saying that he's opposed to it. My second thought is that, and this is something we talk about on this show, I really think that this doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things because this is not helping. And if anything, it might be hurting marginalized people across this country as they try to pass this legislation that helps themselves. And by themselves, I mean rich folks, right? Disproportionately white folks who already have tons and tons of money. And so when we think of this big beautiful bill or some of these other bills that may be incorporated, I'm not sure, where they're cutting Medicaid and Medicare and trying to get illegal immigrants, quote unquote, off of all of our systems in this country. I think it's just going to end up hurting marginalized people, even white folks who are
Yeah.
poor and who rely on these services. So this big fight, to me, while it is entertaining, I'm with you. When politics really actually impacts people's lives on a daily basis, we shouldn't just be looking to be entertained. We should be looking for the truth and looking to be helped. And I don't think either of these two guys are in it to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. They're not for sure. What do you think of these ice raids going on? We kind of touched on that a little bit in the previous topic, but what's your thoughts on that? I've been seeing images of it, but I haven't really done a huge deep dive into it. But what are your just initial reactions?
Yeah, I did a bit of a dive on it earlier this morning, or earlier today, and so the National Guard has now been called in by the president, by Trump, and so they're en route to California right now, specifically Los Angeles, where there have been protests related to ICE. And my understanding, and this is a video from a congressperson who represents a neighborhood or a district near Compton, California, is that ICE came in and began raiding places like Home Depot, also some schools in the area, and also some places of worship, I believe, trying to round up and detain illegal immigrants. Protesters pushed back, as they most always do. They started peacefully, and then the protests turned violent, and they began tossing things at police officers. And so ICE returned fire, so to speak. I think some rubber bullets were fired, some tear gas was fired, and it just escalated. And this is all over the past few days. And so the federal government has called the National Guard into California, which has not happened in a long time. I believe the last time it happened, at least in California, was 1992 after the Rodney King riots. And that was because the governor of California was actually welcoming federal help. In this case, Governor Gavin Newsom said that he believed that the local authorities could control these protests and just needed a bit of time. Instead, Trump sent in the National Guard. And so clearly, he's just trying to escalate this and trying to have some sort of entertaining moment. But again, these are people's lives at stake. Not only the immigrants who are in shock and in fear, but also those who are protesting for their human rights, for the human rights of these immigrants. And now they're being tear gassed. The National Guard is being called in. So it's only going to get more violent before it gets better. That's what I think.
Yeah,
This is just another attempt from Trump
yeah,
to, be an entertainer and not really be an
yeah,
assister.
yeah. I agree with that completely for sure. I do like the fact also that so far nobody is, at least to my knowledge, been hurt or killed unless you have otherwise contrary reporting.
I
So
haven't heard.
like that, nobody has been injured or hurt. I did see somebody earlier say if this was a BLM protests or anything concerning, black folks, that if we might have a different story. I mean, but at the end of the day, I'm happy nobody is hurt, and that's how it should be when you peacefully demonstrate. So that's how I feel about that. Did you see about what Gavin Newsom said that there should probably he was talking about stopping California from paying federal tax. Did you hear about that?
What is that?
Yeah, Gavin Newsom had said that he was gonna he threatened to stop paying federal taxes.
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah. He had said that he was gonna stop paying federal taxes because basically they're not the federal government, aka Trump, is not giving California any money.
I see. Now, does this go back to the wildfires in that era when Trump was like, we're not going to give y'all any more assistance?
Yeah, I think it goes back. It goes to that. It's also there's a Doge aspect to it tied in as well. So I think I think it's a confluence of those two things.
I
But
see.
that has been reported. Um,
Interesting. Well,
yeah,
let me throw a Georgia nugget out to the crowd or out to the audience before we go back national. Clay, you and I have talked about this back and forth, but the governor's race here in Georgia is, I guess, getting a little hotter, I'd say. Keisha
yeah,
Lance Bottoms, of course, is in the race. On the Democratic side, there's a Republican man in the race who I think doesn't have a big name, but he's a U.S. representative. But Marjorie Taylor Greene over the weekend said that she was looking at the Georgia governor's race now.
yeah.
So she's counted out the Senate, U.S. Senate, but she says she's looking at the Georgia governor's race now. And she says if she thinks that it's, going to be a good choice or she can offer something or whatever she said, then she might hop in. What do you think about that? I know we've kind of beat around the bush on this, but do you think if she gets in, it gets harder for Keisha Lance Bottoms? Do you think, I mean, obviously it's going to get more national attention.
Yeah, it will get more national attention, but who's going to be in the primary? I mean, that's what it's going to come down to. I mean, at the end of the day, she still has to go through a primary with local candidates, more localized or statewide coverage candidates. So it's going to be about what comes down to that. I mean, it's not running for a congressional seat. You're actually running to run the state of affairs of Georgia. Obviously, there's that component as well. I don't think she could win stateside because this is you're talking about a different electorate that's actually engaged in this process. I think Georgia does have enough sense to go for actual, even on the Republican side, actual responsible adults in the room, whether they be Republicans or Democrats. So that is my hope that they would choose the lesser of the few evils in that primary. As it relates to Keisha Lance Bottoms, I saw there's a couple other folks. I don't know their names because they're more locally based, so I don't know the names off the top of my head. I still think it's her race to win. Just for that matter, because of national name ID and all, regardless of how Atlantans feel about her. And I know she's a controversial figure amongst Atlantans. If you take the national focus away from it, a lot of Atlantans don't quite frankly like her. But in a race where everything's on the line, where you want to have some momentum going in 2028, and I don't like to always look for the next 4 years ahead. I like to look at what's in front. But yeah, I think it's her race to still win. Just to answer that in brief.
Yeah, I agree. Just a quick fact check in real time and a clarification. So, the only person who has officially declared on the Republican side is Georgia's sitting Attorney General, Chris Carr. I was thinking of Buddy Carter, who has said that he's interested in running, but he hasn't officially declared. Buddy Carter is a U.S. congressman, which he represents the Savannah area. And then also on the Republican side, the state insurance commissioner for Georgia, John King, has said he's interested. On the Democratic side, of course, we talked about Keisha Lance Bottoms, and she has officially declared. But then, and I wanted to mention this to you, Clay, Atlanta area state senator Jason Estevez, I believe he's Latino. He was actually the first official Democratic candidate to declare. And so a lot of people like him. Family man, he's in the state Senate. He has some really progressive ideas. And so, to your point about the primary, it's going to be interesting. I believe, reading this article, one more person has put their name in the hat on the Democratic side, and that is the minister of Atlanta, or I think it's Atlanta, East Point Methodist Church, a man by the name of Olu Brown. So, there are actually three Democrats officially in the race now. Again, Keisha's going to have to get out of that primary. So, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if you've been keeping tabs on the New York City mayoral race, but that field has gotten more and more crowded and such. AOC endorsed a more locally favorite as over Andrew Cuomo. So I still think just in that race, that's Cuomo's to win. They recently had a big debate the other night that was streamed on local media. Um, they had an interesting rapid fire lightning question round where they're asking how much do you pay in rental mortgage. They were dropping their numbers surprisingly, and obviously. not shockingly, Cuomo had the highest rent or mortgage amount per month of $7,800. So
Wow.
yeah, yeah, that was pretty
How
good.
much was it?
$7,800. Yeah, you might have to go on NBC for New York on their Instagram page. They did a viral clip of that, or you might just be able
Okay.
to Google that. But yeah, it's actually more entertaining when you look at it in detail. Otherwise, I'd be talking about it for a few minutes here. But and of course, the AOC endorsed candidate had like the shortest or the cheapest amount of rent, and a lot of people say, yeah, he's the only one who's really for the people because everybody else at least has a house or has rental property. Yeah, so, but yeah, I thought that was pretty cute.
Yeah,
I would say
that
that.
no, I mean, we can stay on that for a second. That New York mayoral race is interesting. I can't remember the man's name. Maybe you can find it that you're talking about, but that more local candidate who AOC endorsed, I think is one of the more progressive candidates. I think he's also pretty pro-Palestine, and because I think one of the rapid fire questions was, would you visit Israel? And I actually enjoyed his answer because he was saying, I'll visit the Jewish people in New York, but why are you asking me if I'm going to go to Israel? What does that have to do with being the mayor of New York? Obviously, they were trying to ask this, or they were asking this because I think Eric Adams is pretty pro-Israel, and that's just a big topic of the day. But this guy was saying, hey, we need to focus on improving life for New Yorkers and making sure that their unique needs are addressed. Also, interestingly, one of the candidates is Michael Blake. He was part of that Win with Black Men movement that was trying to get black men behind Kamala Harris, and that came after the Win with Black Women, and then there was like anyway, he's one of the candidates. But I did see a clip from that debate that you're talking about with the local news up there. There were like 10 candidates. At some points, they were arguing with each other. At some points, Clay, I don't know if you saw this, the moderators were arguing with each other. One of them wanted to move on. The other moderator said, no, let's wait for an answer from Mr. Cuomo. I'm like, the moderators need moderators. So New York is a very interesting spectacle when it comes to local politics, but I do think it's going to be an interesting referendum on the rest of the country, right? Like, where are these middle Americans thinking and really putting their allegiance toward? So we'll see if they just go with Cuomo because he's the big name and the kind of he's the guy who's done it before. We know he's independently wealthy, or if they're going to actually, if New Yorkers are actually going to vote for, a more grassroots person to run the city.
Yeah, but ranked choice voting is going to definitely be a game changer, and it was the last time around, which is how they got Eric Adams involved. But we're going to cover the other races too. It's just that there's not enough coverage on it, like New Jersey and Virginia or any of the other mayoral races. As soon as I catch more wind of it, I will talk about it. But until then, the Georgia 2026 race and the current mayoral race in New York are the ones that are obviously going to be dominating the headlines. I'm not going to talk about 2028 presidential election because that's just there's just enough time there. And I haven't heard any new Kamala Harris news in any regard, whether 2026 or not. I think last I checked from an official source that she was going to decide by the end of the calendar year. So yeah, I until we have that, I don't want to spend time speculating on anything that's unconfirmed. So I
Well,
think
let
that
me give you one more race that we can briefly talk about. First of all, just another fact check. The man's name, who Alexandra Ocasio-Cortez has endorsed, is Zohran Mamdani.
hmm
And they say this article from MSNBC says he's surging at excuse me, this is an article from The Nation, but they say that he's surging at just the right time. So again, they're talking about ranked choice voting and is it possible to have a younger voice lead New York City? So that'll be an interesting race to follow. The New Jersey governor's race, in which the mayor of Newark is running, Ras Baraka, is an interesting one because people may remember that
yeah,
he was arrested recently
yeah, he
for
was.
black man. He was protesting the ICE raids in New Jersey. And so he's the mayor of Newark. He was arrested as a sitting public official, and he's actually running for governor of New Jersey.
Yes.
I'm, is that election going to be next year? No, I think it's
No,
this
that's
year. I
next
think it's
year.
this
Next
year.
year. They
So,
Jersey, Virginia.
that's something we can maybe talk about. I'll just give a brief background.
Sure.
But he is actually the son of poet and activist Amiri Baraka. And some people may know that name, but Amiri Baraka was an American writer. He wrote poetry, drama, fiction, and just was a great black voice in the creative space. But Ras Baraka, the son, is the 40th mayor of Newark. He's running for governor of New Jersey this year. And Ras Baraka is interesting. I don't know if you saw this, Clay, but my Atlanta pastor, as we call him, Jamal Bryant, is actually going to host, if he hasn't already, a fundraiser for Ras Baraka because I guess the Baltimore, New Jersey area, it's all close up there. But I think Pastor Bryant is supporting Ras Baraka for governor, and I'm not sure who's running. Let me see here as we talk about it. But what do you think about this idea of the government arresting even sitting officials for protesting ICE?
Yeah, I don't like it. And just for full disclosure, I am an original New Jersey native. So thank you for reminding me about the Ross Baraka race. It's just that really New Jersey races don't get to build up until later on in the second half of the year, second half of the election year after the primaries. But yeah, I think it is. I'm not surprised. I mean, especially with Trump in office, anything can go down and such. And I think Ross Barack will be great, absolutely great governor. I wish Cory Booker would have ran for it, but he opted not to. That's just my personal feeling on that. And I guess for me, I haven't really said anything too much about Ross Baraka because when it comes to black
Fair.
gubernatorial candidates, I don't really get too excited until I actually see actual believable results. Because look at Andrew Gillum and Stacey Abrams. Until I won't really believe it until I see it. That's just me on that. So when I feel there's a real chance, then I probably will give it more airtime and such, respectfully speaking.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. That makes sense. Were there any other national news stories that you wanted to talk about?
I think we covered the big ones and everything like that. I would like to pivot over to sports, and we didn't really touch on this too
Yeah,
much
yeah, yeah.
last time, but it seems as though things have calmed down in Chapel Bill compared to the last time we were on. I think his PR nightmare has evaded or subsided with Jordan. So thankfully, I mean, y'all can focus on football now without any
That's
additional
right.
actions and whatnot. And Coach Belichick has been on a book tour and everything like that. So it's good that we could just get focused back to football and not stories that will make page six news.
I know it was a mess there for a while. I was telling somebody a funny story yesterday. I watched Coach Belichick's interview with Michael Strahan on Good Morning America, and Michael Strahan was asking him because like you said, Bill Belichick just put out a new book, and Michael Strahan said something like, "Let's talk about page 200 of the book where you were telling the story of the first time you met Tom Brady," and Bill Belichick was like. What story? Like he had no idea. I'm like, I don't even know if he wrote the book, but he still obviously needs a lot of media training before he
Yeah.
goes all over the airwaves. But I am glad that we can get back to focusing on UNC football. Very briefly, UNC basketball. There was a news story about this last week. I think their budget is 14 million this year. They hired a general manager, I believe, for the first time ever, and so they have millions of dollars that they're really trying to spend on the basketball team to recruit some good players so that hopefully we have a better season this year. And we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, in terms of other sports, I guess one we can talk about Clay, and then I'm sure you want to talk about the NBA Finals. But Coco Gauff is the winner. She won the French Open in tennis.
Mhm.
Young black woman, an American, and she won the French Open, I believe, yesterday. And so that was great. Interestingly, and Clay, I don't know if you have thoughts on that. Her opponent said that the reason she won is because the opponent, I think her last name is Sabalenka, made mistakes and not because Coco played very well. So that's been getting a little bit of attention. The opponent was white, Coco was black. I don't know if that played into it at all. But instead of just saying I played poorly, Coco played well, she said no, Coco won because I made a lot of mistakes and unforced errors, and maybe it would have been different if I had played differently, which is like, duh. I don't
Yeah.
know if you have any thoughts on that.
Yeah, I don't really because I mean that's every other press conference, and I mean you're going to hear that at some point or another, even for the most media trained athletes or student athletes at the end of the day. So I don't really put much. much credence into that, but I'm happy to see Coco Golf won. I really do think we need to move on from the Serena and Venus era. It's time to pass the torch to Madison Keys, Coco Golf, or Naomi Osaka, even though she basically represents Japan as well. But I think it's
Osaka, yeah.
yeah, Naomi Osaka. Yeah, so yeah, I like I root for Madison Keys and Coco Golf when during these major tournaments for sure. Um, I hope I see what happens over at Wimbledon and what happens over the U.S. Open later this summer.
That's
Both
right.
of them.
That's right.
And
Well,
if you
did you
notice, the
talk about the NBA?
Spike Lee, I'm gonna segue to NBA this way. He
Yeah.
was there cheering Coco Gauff on, and she said in the press conference, "Yeah, I know the Knicks lost." I'm paraphrasing, but it was happy to give Spike something to basically chat about. So that was that was pretty funny.
I
Yeah.
did see him there taking it in. He looked a little confused, but I think he picked up on it
Mhm.
after a while.
Yeah, for sure. Now let's go over to the NBA Finals. Obviously my New York Knicks did not make it because it seems as though the Indiana Pacers are on a magical run right now.
That's right.
Um, they are on something special. And I know people have said that you look like Jason Tatum, but has anyone ever remotely came close to saying you maybe look like Tyrese Halliburton?
I have heard that actually a few
Oh,
times.
really? Okay,
He
okay.
is all the he's all the hype right now.
Yeah, that was something special the other night.
That
Um,
was amazing. Game two is tonight, I believe.
Yeah, I don't like every 3 nights for the NBA Finals. It's like you
It's
got
too long of a gap, isn't it?
it is. Not to, especially when you had the lowest rating finals in 25 years. It doesn't really help at all, which we kind of
Right.
knew that going
Do you have
in.
a prediction?
I think OKC will bounce back. I think they'll bounce back.
Okay.
I have them winning the series in 5 or 6 anyway, so I mean, I'm not really that much invested into this finals because I had originally Boston in it, and then when they were out, I had the Knicks in it. I didn't really have high expectations for the Knicks, but once they beat Boston, I kind of did, and then they let me down. So but yeah, it's but I mean, I kind of want the season to be over with. I think the NBA's been trending in a bad direction with its popularity and with its marketing and all. So I'm wanting the season to be over with for that regard, and not having a major market team in the finals is not helping at all. And that's just even though real good basketball is being played. Next year, Amazon Prime and Peacock and NBC are picking them up, so they already have a lot of good plans for that with their media coverage. So I'm just looking for that. And of course, your fellow Tar Heel alum, Michael Jordan, is going to be a contributor with Peacock / NBC Sports. So I'm very surprised to see that, and I'm looking forward to seeing that. So what are your thoughts on all that?
Yes, I agree. I agree. I think it's interesting that Inside the NBA on TNT is coming to an end. Of course, the show in some regards will continue, but I really did love that show. I did see the news that Michael Jordan is going to be an investor or contributor or supporter of whatever you want to call it, of this shift. And I mean, we started the show earlier this year, I believe, talking about just the NBA and how it's fallen off, for lack of a better phrase, and the fact that a lot of young people aren't watching it anymore. And it's still the place to be in the bigger cities, right? LA, New York, Miami. You can go and see maybe a star or two or three. But in terms of viewership, those numbers are way down. And so I'm not really sure why that is. I know a few years ago, the NBA used to be all the hype, especially for young people, right? They were even one of the more progressive leagues, and they would take a stance on racism, for example, and actually mean it. And so the fact that it's fallen off is a bit sad to me, but I mean, I don't watch it like I used to, so I'm not sure exactly what changed. I'm sure they're going to try and revive it with all of this media shifting and trying to get folks like Michael Jordan really invested. But as you know, streaming is the way of the future. So if it's not popular, if the league or the sport is not popular on social media, it's not going to be popular on TV for sure. So I do have hope for the NBA. I think there are a lot of great players and lot of great personalities there, and I'm excited to see what happens with, inside the NBA and with this shift over to NBC Peacock.
Yeah. Do you think LeBron's coming back for one more year?
I don't know. I always say yes, and I've always been right. So I'll just say yes again because I don't see any signs of him stepping down. I just do worry, I guess, Clay, that he's going to stick around for 1 year too long and get really hurt or something. I mean, he's played with his son now, technically, I believe. And so I'm not sure what else there is for him to do unless he's really going to try and win a championship sometime in these next 2 years, which I don't foresee.
Yeah, I mean, I think this was probably his last best chance, unless he uproots and goes to the Cavs or to the Knicks, but or to the Warriors. But you're gonna have to do that at this point. But do you want to do that? I do know that I think he wants one more ring just to come close to Jordan. I don't know how much that weighs into his mind. They'll always tell you it's never undermined. I don't believe that half the time, but I think he would like to get one more ring before he's out of there.
I think he
Especially,
does too.
yeah,
I think he wants to do that too.
yeah. But I think that's gonna wrap it up for now. I think I'm gonna put a bow on it because we both have hard stops. But man, it was great to chatting up with you again. And summertime is what it is. But hey, man, we're gonna do it wherever we can. Obviously, I'm in the parking lot, so we're gonna,
Hey,
gonna make it work wherever we can.
we're gonna make it work. These conversations are too important, and yeah, definitely those in the audience tap in with us, comment, like, share. Let us know topics you want us to talk about. Because Clay sees what he sees, I see what I see. We're usually aligned, but sometimes you'll hear some different perspectives. But we want to hear from you all out there. So definitely like, share, comment, and hit us up if you have anything specific you want us to talk about. But I guess for now, we'll just keep following news and try to do this as often as we can.
For sure. All right, then, y'all. Until next time, keep following us, and we'll keep y'all abreast. But until then, holla, peace.
Peace out.
All right, man. Great show today. I will
Thank you.
circle back with you later.
Okay, sounds good. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Bye bye.